We begin the Gemara today on Daf Samach Gimel Amud Beis, towards the bottom of the Amud, or 5 lines up from the bottom of the Amud. V'Amar Rav Nachman said the halacha as follows: Haiman de Oiziv Shiti Mechavre, a person that borrows coins from his friend, and there was a certain amount that they made up that he's going to borrow. V'Ashkich Pei to fine, and then he discovers that he got more than what they made up. So what's the story here? Is this something that he has to return to him or not? So if it's shahadas toye, if this is something that you could see that a person with his mind will make a mistake about this, so then it's a mistake. The lender didn't intend to give this to him. He has to return it to him. But vilav, if it's not something that a person makes a mistake about, so we see that he intended to give him this larger amount, then matana ba'almahu. Then it's just simply a gift that he gave him. The Yovle, that's what he gave him. Now the Gemara explains, when do we say that it's something that you can make a mistake about? When do we say that the person with his mind makes a mistake in estimating what he's giving here? So Rav Acha, the son of Rav Yosef, says, when a person gives money, so there's coins, and these are, let's say, pennies, but when he counts them, he counts by 5s or by 10s. That there's 5 cents, there's 10 cents, there's 15 cents. That's how he counts. Every 5, he sort of counts as one thing. So it's possible that a person, when you see that the mistake was in 5s, that you have 5 extra, or whatever extra you got is in a round number of 5, even if it's 15 or 25, but it's based on a number of 5, then you know that he probably wasn't counting right when he was counting like one time 5, another time 5, another time 5, when he was gathering the coins. And the same thing also regarding 10. Some people count in those times. This was the custom. And the way they counted was, once 10, another 10, another 10. So it's possible that he made a mistake in counting together the 10s, and therefore he gave extra. But if you see that the mistake is not in the numbers of 5 or 10, but it's in between, that there's another 1, 2, or 3, or 4, then you know that this is not based on a mistake. This is something that he intentionally gave him extra, and it's considered to be a gift. Tosfos over here says that this applies in the times of the Gemara when this was the custom, but today when people give money, you count every penny. You count 1, 2, 3, 4 as well, not just by 5s or 10. So this doesn't apply. So Rav Acha, the son of Rava, asks Rav Ashi about this. If this is a very strong person or a hard person, we could assume that he doesn't just give a gift. So then what's the halacha here with this extra that he's giving? You can't assume that he gave it as a gift. So he answered him, even if he didn't give it as a gift, but we know it's not a mistake. So we assume as follows. Dilme migzal gozle. Possibly this lender had once before stolen money from this person. And now he's just including it in the amount of money that he's lending into him to return that stolen money. The Tanya, as we learned in the Braisa, that this is an acceptable way of returning money that you stole. If you steal from your friend, and then when you give him money or you lend him money, so you include in the amount of money, this money that you stole, yatsa. Then you yatsa with returning the money. You don't have to return it separately to the person. You can include it with the other money that you give him. The Gemara asks on this, how about how about if this is a person that's just coming from somewhere far away? You had never had anything to do with this person, so you can't say that he gave you a gift because he's a hard person. You can't say that he's someone that stole from you because you never met him before. So then if you have this extra money, what should we assume the extra money is doing there, if not the fact that he made a mistake? So the Gemara answers, Amalei, Dilme, what we assume is, maybe what happened is, somebody else stole money from you. And he's looking for a way how to pay you without being embarrassed that he's returning the money to you. Now he told this lender here that you Taka don't know him at all, but now he approached this lender and says, look, you're lending money to this person that I stole money from him. When this person is going to borrow these coins from you, mix include in the amount of money that he takes from you, an additional amount of money that I need to return to him. And I'll pay you this money, this extra money that I stole from him, that I want you to do me a favor and include it. So even if it's a person that you never met before, it could be that this is stolen money that is not being returned to you. Okay, the Gemara returns now to the sugya of ribis. Amar Rav Kahana. Rav Kahana said, Havi Yasivni Yesivna b'shili perkei de Rav. I was sitting, or the Rava, I was sitting at the shir of Rav or Rava, and I came at the end. Vishamis, and I heard the Ka'ama that he was at the end of the shir, he was saying, he was speaking about kari, about the kari, which is a melon or a gourd. They were speaking about ribis that would apply regarding a gourd. And I wasn't sure what is the halacha that he was saying here. Basa the Kam Rav, after Rav got up, so I said to the students there, my kari the Kam Rav. What is this kari that Rav was talking about? Amruli, so they explained me and they said like this. Hachi ka'amar Rav, this is what Rav said. Hai man the yav zuzi ligino, that is, akari. A person that's paying a gardener for the gourds that he has, that he wants to buy from him. The ka'azli asara kari b'nei zarta. And the price is that you get the ka'azli asara kari b'nei zarta. You can get for the price that you're giving 10 of these gourds that are small. They're only the size of a zeres. A zeres is a half amma. That's what you get. Now this gardener tells this person that's paying him right now, if you give me the money right now up front, I will give you b'nei garmida. I will give you these gourds when they are an amma. Garmida is double, when it's a full amma size. For that same price of that you would pay me for the smaller ones. Okay, so now basically this is a case where you're giving the person extra from your produce beyond more than what the market value is. Why? Because he's giving you the money in advance. So this is sort of a midrabanan, an issue of ribis, where because you're getting money in advance, and so now he's waiting for his produce. So this is aganatar. So over here you're giving him a cheaper price for the money that he's giving you in advance. So this should be an issue of ribis. So what Rav said about this is like this. Isnuhu shari. If he actually has gourds that are that size of an amma that he said he would give him, the larger gourds, then this is allowed. Because then he's not really giving him a cheaper price for something that he's going to give him later on. He has it already now. It's as if he's giving it to him now because he has it already in his possession. Less no, but if those gourds that he has are not now that size, let's say they're smaller. Right now they are the b'nei zeres, and they're going to grow. If you leave them in the ground, they're going to grow bigger now. But then, even though they're small now, and he has them already, but they're not full size yet, so that's going to be ribis. So then it's going to be aser. That was the halacha that Rav said. On this, the Gemara asks, Pshita, isn't this obvious? This is also a halacha the Gemara said before, in the Samach Gimel Amud Beis, in a case where you're giving a person a cheaper price for merchandise that you're selling him because he's giving you the money in advance, it's not allowed. Unless you have that merchandise right now, and when he pays you this cheaper price, that you have that merchandise for him, and it's as if he's getting it now from you. Then it's not ribis. So this halacha is pashut. What was the chiddush here of what Rav said? So the Gemara answers, no, this case is actually different. Because Mao, the Teime, I would think to say, Kivin the Memela Karabu, since yet he doesn't have the biggest size of the kari yet, but he has a smaller size, and it's going to grow, and it's going to Memela grow. You just leave it there in the ground, and it's going to grow automatically. Shaper dummy. So maybe I would say that this is okay, that this is considered to be that you have already these kari, these gourds available for him right now when he pays you this cheaper price. It's not yet full size, but it's going to grow full size. It's automatically, if you just leave it there, it's going to grow. So it's as if you have it for him now. Kamash Malon, therefore Rav said, no, that's not that way. Right now it's a smaller size, and the fact that it's going to grow doesn't matter. Doesn't have it yet, and therefore you're taking a cheaper price, you're accepting from him the money now in advance, and therefore you're giving them for a cheaper price. That's the issue of ribis. Says the Gemara, Keman, according to who does this halacha of Rav go like, that even though it's there now and it's going to grow memela, we don't pay attention to the fact that it's going to grow memela. It goes kahai Tana. Follows what this Tana here in the Braisa said. Tanya, we learned in the Braisa like this. If you see a person that's going to milk his goats, or he's going to shear the wool of his sheep, or velirdes is kavartoi, or he's going to take honey out of his honeycombs, the beehives. So his friend sees him v'amaloi, and he tells him, Ma she'izai, so he says to his friend, look, that I'm going to sell you pay me now in advance, and I'll give you a cheaper price, and whatever my goats whatever milk it'll produce will be sold to you. Or whatever I'm going to share the wool from my sheep will be for you. Or whatever the honey that I'll produce here, that I'll take out from the honeycomb, will be sold to you. Mutter, this is allowed. Reason this is allowed is even though he might end up actually getting much more than what he paid for, because you don't know exactly how much milk or how much wool or how much honey will come out. But it's actually also possible that he'll lose out and he'll get nothing, because it might be much more than what he paid now in advance, or it might be nothing or much less. So therefore, this is mutter. You can't say this is ribis, that he's getting more for what he paid, because no, he might get more, he might get less. But if the person says to his friend, look, I'll tell you what I'm selling you. This is a certain amount of what milk that I will be milking from my goat, and that is a set amount, that you pay me now. And as Rashi says, what it's talking about over here is specifically that he's saying, listen, I'll take from you a cheaper price, and then you pay me this money in advance now, and then I'm going to give you this amount of milk. Or what I'm going to share wool in the future from my sheep, this specific amount, that's what I'm selling you now. Or this amount of honey that I'm going to get from the honeycombs, that's what I'm selling to you now for a cheaper price, because you're giving me the money in advance. Aser. This is aser, because you're taking from the money in advance, and because of this, you're giving him a cheaper price for what he's going to get later from the milk or so on. So what do you see here in this case? The Gemara concludes now and explains. Even though the milk or the honey or the wool is something that it grows or it comes automatically, naturally, so you may say that he's taking a cheaper price and he's giving him these things, so even though it's not here yet, but it's going to come memela. So it's like it's here, it's like you're giving it to him now, like you have it available for him now. But nevertheless, what we see here is, given the lesson of Shaita Aser, since at that time it's actually not here yet, so therefore it's not allowed. So the same thing we say also, that's the halacha that Rav said before, regarding a case where the person is giving a cheaper price for these gourds that are smaller and they're going to grow larger, that the fact that it's there already and it's going to grow large automatically, it doesn't matter. It's not here yet. That was the halacha, the first version that the Gemara has this. There are those that say Omar Rava, that Rava said, and Rava argued in this, according to another version, before it was also Rava, and this is another version of what Rava said. In this case, when you're taking a cheaper price, you're giving him a cheaper price, and you have it already available in your possession, even though you're giving him the cheaper price for larger gourds, and I only have the smaller ones, but because it's going to grow automatically, so therefore it's like you have it already for him now, and therefore there's no issue of ribis. So the Gemara asks from this brisa we just quoted, but we learned here in the brisa regarding the case of the milk and the wool or the honey, kach v'kacha. So you're taking a cheaper price from him and you're saying this and this amount that it's going to produce is going to be yours for this cheaper price because you're giving me the money in advance. Is not allowed, even though the milk and the honey comes automatically. And so he answered him, Rabbi said, Hasam lav minei karabu. Over there, in that case, the milk is not something that's coming from what's here right now. Because what happens with the milk? The shakli lelahai, you milk this goat, and the milk that's there now, that's taken away. There's other milk that's going to be produced in its place. And similar also with the wool or with the honey. There's wool that's there now, but then there's additional wool that's going to come later that the seller here is going to share and give to this person. Or the honey. So you can't say it's this very milk and this very honey that's growing. No, this honey is taken away, and now there's additional honey that he's going to give him later. So that additional honey that he's giving him later is not here now. And he's giving him a cheaper price because he's paying him in advance for something that he doesn't have now. But over here, when it comes here to the gourds that Rav is speaking about, minei karabu. It's these very gourds itself that are now smaller, that are the size of a zeres, that are going to grow to the size of a garmida, which is a full amma. If you take this away, there's none of them that are replacing it. It's this one itself that you're selling him, and you're taking the price from him now. It's as if you're giving it to him now. This is yours now, and just leave it attached to the ground, and it's going to grow more, but it's already yours. So therefore, it gets the size that it gets to. It's only growing in the buyer's possession, right? It's like he has it already in his possession. You're just leaving it attached to the ground, so it should grow more. Omar Abaya. Abai said that halacha sharile leinish lememele lechavre. Person is allowed to say to his friend, "Heloch arba zuzi achavite dechamra." Here, I'm giving you 4 zuzi, paying for a barrel of wine, and the deal is like this. If by the time you provide it for me and I get from you this barrel of wine, it goes bad, it becomes vinegar, so then that's going to be your responsibility. You'll have to give me another barrel of wine. Seller's responsibility. Now, but regarding whether the price of it goes up or the price of it goes down, birishusi. That's mine. Meaning, if the price of it goes up, then I'll gain. For the price that I gave you now, I'll get more. If the price of it goes down, I'll still take the same amount, and it'll be a loss because I'm going to get less for the value of what I gave you before. So this is allowed. So the Gemara explains this. So the Gemara asks on this. So Rav Shravi asks Abaye on this. But hi, korev l'schar v'rochek lehefsid. Isn't this a case where it's something that you pay, and there may be a gain, but there may be a loss here, but it's actually closer for it to be a gain than for it to be a loss, because you're saying with him that if it goes bad and it becomes vinegar, then the seller is the one that's taking the loss, not the buyer. The buyer is the one that has the gain if the price goes up. So even though the price could go down also, but he has the gain if it goes up. So if so, it's more likely, the Gemara says now, that the buyer should be the one that's going to gain here, and less likely that he's going to lose out. All right, again, because the point is, because one of the main things that could happen here is that it can go bad, it could become vinegar, and that's something that the buyer is not going to lose. It's the seller that's going to lose on that. So Rashi brings, it says later here in the Perek, that in such a kind of case where you're paying for something and you're setting it up in such a way that it's more likely that you're going to end up gaining out of this. You're going to get more for what you paid, then that's a issue of ribis. You're getting more for what you paid. So he answered him, no, over here, true, when it comes to the fact that the wine itself would go bad, that the buyer is not saying, I'll have the loss. It's going to be the seller's loss. But the buyer is saying, whether the price goes up or the price goes down, either way, the difference will be on me. So he might gain or he might lose. So then it's equal. Whether he'll gain or lose, it is equal. And therefore, in such a case, there's no din, there's no isser of ribis. It's only ribis if it's more likely that it'll become more expensive. A person lent money to his friend. You shouldn't live in his courtyard, in his house, for free, because then he pays you back and you get back the payment for your loan plus the fact that you're able to live by him for free. So it comes out that you're getting extra. It's like ribis. And also if he has a place that he rents, you can't rent it from him for a cheaper price, because then it's also like ribis. You're getting paid back for your loan and you're getting also from him a reduced price on this rental here. Even though it was said, and this is the Gemara in Bava Metzia, there are Miraim that say that Hadar b'chatzar chaveiroi shaloi midaitai. If you live in your friend's house or courtyard without his permission, ein et tzarech lahalis leischar. You don't have to pay him for this. So Rashi brings this is the sugya in Bava Metzia about zeh nene v'zeh lechaser, which is a case of the person that has this courtyard. It's not something that he's planning on renting out to anybody. It's just sitting there empty. So the fact that you're living there, he's lechaser. You're not taking anything from him. You're having hana because you would be ready to pay rent somewhere else, and now you're living here rent-free. But because it's zenana, even though it's zenana, that is, but the other person is lechaser, so therefore he has no right to demand any money from you. So therefore you putter. That's in a regular case where you just go and live in someone's house when he's not chaser at all. He wasn't planning on renting it out. However, hilva'u, if you lent the person money, vidar b'chatzeiroi, and then you live in his courtyard with free of pay, tzarech lahalis leischar, you can't do that. You're going to have to pay him for this, because otherwise you're getting paid for your loan plus a rent-free apartment that you're getting from the borrower. So then this is like ribis. So the Gemara asks him this, my kamash malon. What was the chiddush that Rav Yosef here said? This is our Mishnah, Tanina. Our Mishnah said, Amalve es chaveiroi. If you lend money to your friend, you can't live in his house for free. You can't have a reduced price on a rental from him, because this is ribis. So he seems to be saying the same halacha as our Mishnah. So the Gemara answers like this. Now the chiddush here is like if it would be just of what it says in our Mishnah, hava minne, I would think to say, hanemili, when does the Mishnah say this halacha that you can't now rent from him cheaper or live in his property for free, that's only b'chotze de kaimela agra, if it's actually a property, an apartment that was set for rentals. And also v'gavre de lemega. And you, the lender, you're a person that's looking for a rental and you're ready to pay rent. So therefore, and that's a case that would be zenena, you're having a no, because here you'd be getting it for free, and v'zeh chaser. You're actually taking from him something because he's losing by the fact that he now can't rent it out to someone else. So in such a case, when you lent him money and you get back the payment for the loan, plus this that you had a no from his apartment where you're nana and he's chaser, so this is ribis. However, but what's if it's a property which is not even there for rentals at all? It's just sitting empty. The person is not renting it out. And also, you could even say, even a case where the person himself, he's not ready to pay anywhere else for rental. He's anyways going to live somewhere for free. He's not ready to pay. So in such a case, what is that called? You're not having a no by sleeping over here in his house, because it's not like you're saving yourself any money. You weren't ready to pay anywhere else anyways. And the other person is not losing anything out by the fact that you're living in his house. So maybe I would say over here there's no issue of ribis. You didn't take anything from him. You didn't really have any benefit there, so there's no issue. Kamash malan. Therefore, the Mishnah is saying that even though there's no actual ribis here, but as Rashi says, this is mechzik ribis. It looks like ribis. It looks like that you're getting payment from this person, and now, he's ready to do you a special favor because you lent him money. So therefore, it looks like ribis. So there's a big discussion over here about this. Taisus talks about this, that according to what it says here, it comes out basically you can say that if you borrow money from someone, you can't do your lender any kind of favor whatsoever. Even a kind of favor like it describes here, where it's zeh loynene v'zeh loy chaser, but you can't do any kind of favor for him. That's what it seems like over here. But Taisus says it's not so pashit, that if it's a case over here, we're talking about something, Taisus says, which is bifar hesya, and everybody sees, it looks like it's ribis, that it's that you're living in this person's house. But stam, a favor between you and him, if it's someone that's your friend and you borrowed money from him, now you want to do him a favor, then it's obviously is not an added thing to the payment of the loan. And no one sees anything unique here, it's not in public, so then those kinds of favors is not an issue. That's what Taisus explains here. There's also another Inyan over here that Rashi brings up, Achlal, Benegate. This Rashi says that we see over here from our Mishnah that when you borrow money, you can't then have the lender live in your house, even if you're going to take off from that amount of time that he lived in the house, you're going to take it off from the payment of the loan. You deduct it from the payment of the loan, but if you're doing it on a reduced rate, it's not allowed. So Rashi here says, and Rashi, big discussion about this, both in Rashi and Taisus about that. Taisus argues. Okay, this is all one version to this, what Rav Yosef Bar Menyumi said. Another version here is, Amar Rav Yosef Bar Menyumi, Amar Rav Nachman, Af al Pisha Amru. Even though it was said, Hadar b'chatzar chaver shalom yidaita ein tzarich lahalas leischar, in a case where you're living in a person's house, and as I explained before, this is a case of zanena v'zel lechaser, it's not a property that was made to rent out at all. So you don't have to pay him for this, he's lechaser. But halveni v'dur b'chatzeri, if you approach your friend and you say that lend me money and you can live in my chatzar. So here, as we'll see soon, the Gemara is going to point out, in this lashon, the point is halveni. This is what he's making up with him in advance. He's telling him, look, you're going to lend me money and I'm going to give you for free to live in my house, in my courtyard. So you can't do that. He has to pay for what when he's living there. So it shouldn't be ribis. Okay, so now here the Gemara will point out the difference between the two lashonos. So the first lashon said hilvahu, that what happened over here is after the fact, after he borrowed the money, now the lender wants to go ahead and live in the borrower's house for free. This lashon said halveini, which means that this is something that was made up in advance. So therefore the Gemara says, Man dama halveyo kol sheken halveini. The first lashon that said that even after the fact, it wasn't something that they made up in advance, like it's always called by Ribbis, ktsutza. It wasn't like a set and fixed in advance. And it was only after the fact that he wants to now go live in the house of the borrower. So it's still not allowed. Kol sheken halveini, definitely if they're making this up in advance. But Amandama halveini, the opinion that says that only if he made up in advance that I'm lending you this money, but then you're going to pay me, and in addition I'm going to live in your house for free, that's not allowed. Avol hilvo, but if it was after the fact that now the lender wants to go live in his house for free, loy, that's not a problem according to this lashon. My time, why? Since it wasn't set, fixed lechatchila for the loan, that this is part of the deal that he's going to pay you, plus that you could live in his house for free, so therefore it's not a problem. It's a separate thing that he's doing you a favor that you can live in his house. Talk to Gemara of Yesi Bachame, Takif Avdi the Inchi the Masik Bozuzi. Rav Yesi Bachame, he would go and grab slaves from the people that owed him money. He would go and grab their slaves and have them work for him. They would do work for him. Okay, so they owed him money, and he wasn't getting paid from them. So he went and he would take their slaves and have them work for him. So Rav son tells him, "My time Ovid Marhachi, why are you doing this?" So the issue here is you're grabbing these slaves, and then what happens if the person actually pays you? So now he paid you for the loan, and you got the payment for the loan plus the work of these slaves for free. So this is the issue of ribis. Or perhaps it's the issue of gzela also. It's another pshat over here. They're asking, you're just stealing these slaves? You could just, because someone owes you money, you can just go and grab these slaves and use it for yourself? Amalei, so he explained to him, Anok Rav Nachman Svirili, I hold like Rav Nachman. Rav Nachman says regarding the work of slaves, Avda Nohaim Kirese Leshavi. The work of a slave, the value of the work that he does for you, it's not even worth the price of the bread that he needs for his stomach that you have to serve him. So I'm serving these slaves food. And the price that I'm paying for the food that I'm serving them is worth more than the work that they do for me. And I'm actually saving the master money that he doesn't have to serve them, he doesn't have to feed them. So there's no ribis over here. Amalei, so his son told him that's not always true. It depends what kind of work these slaves are doing. Hey, Medam Rav Nachman. When did Rav Nachman say this? Kagoin, Dori, Avde, like Dori, which was his slave, that was his name. The market Bekubi. What was he a slave? What did he do? What was his work? He was basically some kind of entertainer where he would dance around between the stores, and over there he would dance around in order to be able to get some wine to drink for himself. So that kind of work that he does is not really valuable at all. So over there, his work is not worth the money that you spend on the food that he eats. Avdi Achirini, however, any other slave, mi Omar, did Rav Nachman ever say such a thing, that he works for you and then the food is the same as the work that he does? That's not true. The work is much more valuable. So it's still an issue of ribbis here. Mi Omar, did he ever say this? Amalei. So Rav Yosef Bacham tells the son, Ano ki had Rav Daniel barav ketina amarav svirili. I hold like this halacha that was said in the name of Rav. The Amar, he said, Hatoikif avdi shochaveri v'asa by malacha. You go and grab a slave of your friend that's sitting idle and doing nothing, and you do work with him, potter. You don't have to pay the master for the fact that you used his slave. Why not? Okay, let's just finish off the Indian here in the next Amid. Because the master is happy to lay nistere avde. He doesn't want the slave to just hang around and get used to doing nothing. So this is actually a case. This goes back to the point that was brought up before. This is another example of zen nene. You're having a benefit by using this person's slave. And v'zelech chaser. The master is not losing out anything from this. He's happy that you should use him and not have him sit around lazy. So that's why I'm allowed to take the slave. Amalei, so son asks him again, this idea of and therefore you potter, you don't have to pay, that's stam in a case where you go and you grab someone's slave that's sitting around lazy, but not in a case where you're a lender and you're grabbing the slave from the borrower, because then it looks like ribis. Over here, since you're taking it from people that owe you money, it looks like ribis, even though it's not really ribis, because the owner of the slave is not chaser anything, you're not taking from him anything additional, but nevertheless, it looks like ribis. And here the Gemara brings what we already learned before, the Amar of Yosef ben Yomi, Amar of Nachman, Afal Pisha Amru, even though it was said, Adar b'chatzar chaver shalom yadaita, and it's tzarech lahadas le'schar. Even if the halacha is that zanena bezele chaser is potter, so if you live in your friend's house that's not made for renting out, so he lost nothing, so you don't have to pay him for it. But nevertheless, helveyu v'dar b'chatzeroi tzarech lahadas le'schar. If you lent him money and now you want to go live in the borrower's house, that's a problem. Then you have to pay him, so it shouldn't be a payment plus the fact that you're getting a house for free. So over here as well, if you're taking this slave from a borrower, even if it's true what Rav said, that just grabbing the slave, you don't have to pay the owner because he's happy that you're using him and he's not letting him sit lazy, but you're a lender. So over here, you're going to get a payment plus the work from the slave. It looks like ribis. That was what his son asked him. Amalei. So finally he said to his son, you're right, Hadri bi, I retract from what I was doing.